Digging in.
All right. Good evening. I'd like to call the Thursday, September 15, 2022 Hebron Board of Education regular meeting to order. If I could do a roll call, starting at this end.
Alex Crawford, board member.
Nicole Matthews, board member.
Joe Martinez, board member.
Allie Schmeisel, secretary.
Heather Pettit, board chair.
Tom Barrett, superintendent.
Don Breer, director of educational services.
Caitlin O'Leary, business manager.
Mrs. Oriana. Oh. I'm just going.
Sure.
Team teacher, Tom Rosen.
Hello. Good evening. If we could all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. All right, next on the agenda is student recognition. Dr. Baird.
Oh, I am really excited for this one. So, we have Rachel Smith here with her invention from the Invention Convention. I'm going to ask Mr. Pape to come up. You can come up to the front table here and share a little bit about Rachel's. Yeah, Rachel, come on up with Mr. Pape. And they're going to talk a little bit more about Invention Convention. I'll just say this, that I've been judging Invention Convention for over 10 years. And Rachel's invention last year and then again this year have been so impressive for a K-2 student representation. And we are so proud to have Rachel out there representing Hebron on the world stage.
Thank you. So,
Hold on, I'm gonna tell them about you first,
okay, got it.
and then you can tell them about your invention.
Huh? What's that?
Oh, I shouldn't have touched it. All right, so welcome everybody. So I'm Mr. Pape, I'm Rachel's STEAM teacher, but in reality, I've had nothing to do with her amazing success as an inventor. She's an outstanding student. I look forward to having her. Unfortunately, I only have her for one last year, and then she's off to Hebron Elementary School. She's a bright student, very inquisitive, works very hard. I'm going to give you a little background on her accomplishments. So, as you may or may not know, she won the Hebron Invention Convention for a grade level last year when she was in kindergarten. She also won the State Invention Convention while she was in kindergarten, and she also won the U.S. Invention Convention while she was in kindergarten. So how do you top that? Well, in first grade, she won our grade level invention convention. She won the state invention convention, and she also won the global invention convention this year, as well as she earned the innovative award at the global invention convention, which was only given out to one person. So while in first grade this past spring, Rachel won the Hebron Invention Convention and the Connecticut Invention Convention with her Remember It bracelet, which she's going to tell you about in about 1 minute. This past August, 174 young inventors from participating Invention Convention national programs in the United States, Mexico, Singapore, and China competed with Rachel during the second annual Invention Convention Globals. So, Invention Convention Global participation consists of student inventors like Rachel from across the globe. To participate in this, Rachel had to submit a video presentation of her invention. You don't do that this year?
Sometimes you do, sometimes you don't have to make a slideshow.
Okay. A prototype, an inventor's logbook showing the journey of her invention process, a display board highlighting key points of her invention process. And like I said earlier, Rachel not only won first place in the K to second grade category, she also earned the most innovative award for her Remember It bracelet out of all the participants in that global invention convention, which that just blows my mind. So at her young age, she beat out everybody all the way up through high school with her invention.
Oh, wow.
That's awesome.
Wow, that's awesome.
Now I'll let Rachel tell you about her amazing invention.
So So it solves the problem of children forgetting to pack all their things in the backpacks. Well, not anymore. Used to. But after I started using it for a while, then I learned that it could also help you remember a lot of other things, like remembering to take your medicine, drink water, and a lot of other stuff. Even potty training, because I made my sister a keychain that helps her potty train, and she loves it. So, and let me show you how it works. So, flat beads, not round. That helps you put vinyl sticker paper that tells you what you need to do or pack. Once you've done or packed that drawer, then you can flip it over to this colorful side over here. When you can only see the colorful side of each bead, you know you're all done. And then say you can get out of the house or do something like that.
So, just really quickly, because I don't want to keep you here all night, where did you get the idea for this invention?
Well,
Your inspiration?
Well, I forgot things a lot at school, and me and Mom looked on the computer to see if there's anything that could help me. We found paper checklists, and those are not a very good solution. And then I found my Thanksgiving Day bracelet, which was a school project. The colors of the beads represented the different parts of Thanksgiving, and that gave me the idea to create a bracelet. No one has ever used that to remind you to pack or do your chores, so I figured that was a good idea. And then upgrades, like waterproofing.
Excellent.
All right, well, Rachel, I have a certificate for you, so I'm gonna come up and we're gonna take some pictures. Mr. Kinney's gonna take some pictures for
And
us.
can I see it up close? Do you mind? You have to be really careful with these. Oh, you know what? I'll come over there.
It's okay, I can come around.
Can we all go see it?
We're going to see
Yes.
it. All right. Just gonna ask her when she's gonna open her Etsy shop.
I don't want you to trip over the wires that are in the middle.
All right, let you show off the bracelet first, and we'll do the picture.
I really want to see it close up.
So to-do bead. So to-do or not everyday bead helps you remember things you don't need to do every day. You can use with a pencil. Another one, and then reward bead. Check a box off each day. You remember everything, and you can get a reward. And they both write. You can both write on and erase clearly with a pencil.
Oh, that's awesome. I love it.
Normal sticker paper works like magic.
Love it. That's great.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Look, you went up against high schoolers. Wow, that's amazing.
Pretty much 12th grade as
All
as
across
the
the country.
max.
It's really fantastic. It's a huge accomplishment. Yeah, we're so proud of Rachel.
Thank you.
You must be very proud too.
Yeah.
My sister was like crying when she couldn't go.
How did the potty training go?
So
Yeah, whole set.
Yeah, Ellen,
we got whole set. Keychain and magic sticks to a magnet bracelet. Sticks to anything magnetic. Sneaky little Mr. Magnet.
So does it just remind her to go?
The potty train, it doesn't. But my mom and dad do that. But it does remind her how to do it.
Oh, so like
So,
steps.
so pull pants down, pull your pants down, done that. You do your business. Pull
Like the
pants
business
up,
bead.
done that. Flush the toilet, done that. Wash your hands, done that. And then yeah, you're gonna be. Doesn't matter which side you put the you're gonna be, it'll always say that.
That is amazing. So creative.
Thanks.
Thank you for showing us.
I can't wait to see what
And
comes up with this.
and this is for my sister, so I did special purple on the side.
Oh, that was nice of you. We could all be in the picture.
We good?
Thank you for showing us.
Mom too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Come on up.
That's right.
She helped me out with the stuff and stuff.
I bet she did.
With the stuff.
So your certificate says inventor of the Remember It bracelet, first place in the K-2 grade category and winner of the competition's top prize, the most innovative award.
It's called best in show.
I think
more big smiles. Thank you.
Good job, congratulations. Thank you for having us. Oh my God. I love that. Very creative. I think I need a reminder.
Yeah, I definitely could for a lot of things.
Mine would be really long, so there'd be a lot of things.
Make it into a necklace.
A belt. Thank you. All right, that was awesome. Okay, so next on our agenda is discussion and possible action regarding the resignations of board members. So we have two of our board members, Diana Morales and Amanda Veneziano, who have submitted their resignations. Diana's was effective immediately, and that is due to she got a wonderful, she has a wonderful career, and she's doing really well, and she's busy, and she just can't dedicate the time that she would like to. I'm very thankful for Diana. Like, she really was very passionate and really cared about kids, and so we are going to miss her on the board. Amanda, same situation where she had also her career as taking off, and so she as well couldn't dedicate really the time that she would have liked to. And you know, as vice chair, I'd also thank her for her commitment, both of them for their commitment, dedication to our schools, our students, our staff, our community. It's a lot of hours that folks put in, and I think even behind the scenes, you know, they were both part of different committees and came in the evenings, not even just for the regular board meetings, but for other things. And so I really will miss them both. But and if anyone else wants to say anything, that's fine. We do formally, through our bylaws, have to, and policies, have to vote to accept the resignation. It's just a formality, because I think even if we voted no, they would still not be here. And so, we'll vote in a moment, and then I will say I would submit then a formal letter to the clerk of the town, letting her know that the board has 2 vacancies. It would then go to the Board of Selectmen after each of them submits a wet signature resignation to the town. It would go to the Board of Selectmen, who would have it on their agenda, and they would start a 45-day period where people could put in the vote, and then they would decide. At our October meeting, we will have to vote on a vice chair, because we'll have that position open. So keep that in mind for October. And Amanda did fill a couple of committees as well. School readiness, which I'm happy to take on, but also because I have that time, it's a little earlier in the day, and I know most of us work later, but I can get out at that time. And then the PTA.
I think sheriff communications too.
Oh, right, and sheriff communications. So we will have, if anyone has an interest in those, we can talk about that. Her resignation, Amanda's, is not immediate. It's as of September 30th, so that's why we'll do it at the October board meeting. All right, so with that, I will ask for a motion to accept the resignation of Diana Morales, effective immediately, and Amanda Veneziano, effective September 30th, 2022, with regrets and appreciation for their service.
So moved.
Second.
All right, Joe moves, Ally seconds. Is there any discussion? Oh, I'll keep looking over there. All right. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Abstentions? All right, it's unanimous. And we thank them for their service. Next is the district advancement plan update, physical education curriculum audit.
So I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Briere and Mr. Brewer. Yeah.
Hey, come on over. If you don't want to.
Everyone, let's get the PowerPoint fired fired up for you here. We had 3 chairs, but Mr. Patron was coaching tonight in football, so he is here in spirit to our left.
Excuses.
Do you want me to get the lights, Dave?
No, it should be fine.
Okay. So you all have the handout in front of you. It's a brief PowerPoint. There's a couple hyperlinks within it as well. So hopefully tonight you'll get a good understanding of some of the work that was accomplished over the summer by our small but mighty team, as well as where we hope to go next with the PE curriculum development. We talked last year and kind of set the stage for what would be a curriculum audit of the PE work. Last year, the recommendation was built off of the understanding that it had been a few years since we had done the work. So we effectively wanted to kind of follow in suit with what the folks did last year with their audit and look at what we currently were doing, what perhaps we wanted to be doing, and set in stage perhaps a next steps where we go with our PE curriculum. So first, just a special thanks to our team. So Mr. Patron and Mr. Corona, who's joining me tonight, dedicated some time over their already very busy summers to come in and do this work. I'm here already, so I was happy to have company over the summer. And Mr. Craig, who you may recognize that name, he helped us out the previous summer with a health curriculum, so just a wealth of knowledge. We're able to partner with him again to come in and facilitate some of the conversation for us. So a special thanks to our small group. And we're calling this phase 1. So we know we couldn't accomplish everything in the days we had this summer. So at the end of the quick presentation here, you'll see where we hope to go next as we continue down this path. But happy to report that we did accomplish what we set out to accomplish and then some this summer. So you'll see that coming up.
So first thing we did was develop a vision and mission for physical education in Hebron. We did the audit of our current curriculum. We tried to build a 10-month pacing guide for PE, very similar to the way we did the summer before for the health program. Began developing we're hoping to begin developing a comprehensive digital PE curriculum and establish some next steps. So our vision that we came up with was all students are champions of wellness who exhibit resilient, strong character and sportsmanship in their daily lives. And our mission statement was Hebron Physical Education provides children a strong foundation to explore a variety of long life activities to promote enjoyment, positive social interactions in the pursuit of a healthy, well-rounded lifestyle.
We did spend some time talking about this that first day. We thought it was important to marry together our district vision statement and mission statement with our ongoing priority of social and emotional well-being and our health curriculum. So the team felt this is a good marriage between those various initiatives we do have going on in the district. So this is a catch-all slide, so it kind of brings you through our vision, our process for the audit, as well as our development process. So the first step before we even got to the vision and mission development conversation was just to look at the new framework the state just launched last year. You may recall Dr. Baird mentioning that at the end of last year. So we did review that prior to our summer work even, and kind of looked at some of the big takeaways, the ideas, and started to generate some ideas around where our curriculum currently was. So that was step 1. Then from jump this summer, we did look at that vision and mission that Mr. Corona just worked through, and then the audit occurred. So step 3 there is the grade level and outcome goal audit. Driving questions, really, pretty simply, were what indicators are currently addressed in our curriculum, what indicators would we like to be addressed that are not currently addressed. So it's really a big question, right? We really wanted to just see, do we have the broad coverage we think we do, and let's do the work to kind of confirm that or not. So that was the first task, and that really was the charge of the summer work this past year. Dave, are you able to click on that first hyperlink there? Nope. That one, yep. So this is just an idea of the work we did. I don't want to belabor it, but what effectively we did is go through all the various PE level indicators grade by grade and identify by looking at our current curriculum and lesson progression which indicators were covered fully, which indicators were partially covered, and which we felt like were not covered at all. So we're not gonna do this. We could scroll through this entire document for each of the indicators. You'll see there are quite a few. Instead, I'll just give you some of the big outcomes as we work through the presentation. But each of those are linked in the presentation. We can certainly share that if you are interested. But Dave, if you could go back to the PowerPoint deck. So that's your B, C, and D there. I was going through each of the indicators, and I'll come back and wrap around in a second as far as what we found there. The next big step was developing a scope and sequence pacing guide, and that was the other big charge of the summer work. Very similar conceptually to what we did last year with the health curriculum. We wanted to ensure that across the grades, K to 6, indicators were covered for sure, but also when and how were they happening. We knew the who in this scenario, that was Mr. Corona and Mr. Patron. We didn't necessarily know the who at the health curriculum kind of presentation. It was a shared responsibility. So Dave, if you could click on that scope and sequence, what we established was, Dave, can you make that view 50%? Yeah. This will look very similar to the health pacing guide in color and aesthetic, and that's purposeful, just so it's a familiar document. But what it effectively does is at the bottom, you have Gilead Hill and Hebron Elementary School, and it paces out the time variable up top in the first row is how many classes are required for each progressive unit, what the unit is titled, and then what the standards are and the lesson titles are across each grade and across the year. So this is just a snapshot. It's not intended to go deeply into it, but we did this work this summer and felt really positive in reflection after completing this exercise to have everything in one place and kind of really see how long does it take to go through soccer and ball handling skills, right? So we have it kind of mapped out now in this pacing guide. And we have that for each school in this one document. And Dave, you can just click back on the PowerPoint deck there. So that did take up the majority of the work of the summer, and then we had some key takeaways to answer those lead questions. Now, the first big takeaway for us was that it was confirming in the sense that we noticed we do have broad coverage of our indicator level skills addressed across the grades, with nearly all grade level indicators being addressed. So that was a positive takeaway. From a numbers standpoint, that meant that 96% of all those indicator boxes you saw on that one example, 96% of those indicators are covered, grades 1 through 5, 78% covered in grade 6, and I probably should put an asterisk next to that 78% to explain it a little bit more. The indicators ranges are grades 6 through 8. So grades 7 and 8, there's a series of indicators that we know are covered in vertical alignment to RAM. So, so overall felt really good about the broad coverage across our grades. And then Dave, you can just click to I can just click to the next slide. So that brought us to a reflection on where we go from here. Across this year, we've kind of made a commitment to stay on top of reviewing our pacing across the year. So we established that pacing guide that Mr. Crone and Mr. Patron and I can glance at across the year to see if the pacing is on par with what is in that document. So that's one. Continue reflection on some of the curricular gaps. Again, they're very sparse. There's far and few between, but looking at those and figuring out how and when may we weave those in if it's appropriate developmentally. That's 2. And the exciting part, we think, is what we'll call phase 2 of this work, which is to develop this comprehensive digital PE curriculum. Dave, that's a hyperlink too. I'm not sure if you can click on that one. Sure. This is, caveat, this is something we were not able to get to this year, so we kind of accomplished our set priorities, but we've established a template that we will use. So this digital PE curriculum we're hoping to work on in the future, and it would effectively identify the things we just talked about, pacing guide, the indicator coverage, and also will outline and map out each of our lessons. So we're excited for this work to continue, and we were also excited just to plant the seed for what this could look like as we ran out of time this summer. And then Dave, you can just hop back to the slideshow. Thanks. And that is it. So that was our work this summer. So questions, answers, discussion?
Thank you very much.
Sure.
Does anyone have any questions, comments?
Can I just share
Yes.
something? So, I just want to say I love your vision statement. You know, sometimes I think people think it's like super easy to come, and then when you go through that process, it is so not easy, right? To come up with like a vision statement that sort of captures everything that you want to capture and that it isn't like 3 pages long. So I just want to say that I, like, right out of the gate, I just really like your vision statement. I think it's fantastic.
Thank you.
You know, I just think it's a great message. In terms of the indicators, if I guess my question is, like, if parents wanted to know about that, like, take a deeper dive into, like, the curriculum or the indicators or anything like that, this will probably be attached to the minutes, right? Like, people could find it if they wanted to find it. Do you ever get a lot of questions? I'm just curious, like, from families about, like, indicators or physical fitness curriculum or anything like that?
Not in general, I would say, as far as like specifics, you know, it's more of a general conversation piece, you know, what are some of the things you guys go over, you know, things like that, but nothing as far as like, how many weeks do you guys spend on, throwing and catching, or,
Right, right.
you know, foot skills or things like that.
Okay, good to know, yeah.
And this will be something right on our website that we can actually put under the district advancement plan, right? And so parents could click on these, right?
The
They're doable.
PowerPoint, did you have it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
the-
great.
The PowerPoint will be up on the website, yeah, under the district advancement plan. One of the things that we are definitely getting more, I wouldn't say a lot or many, but we are getting more questions from parents around curriculum, which isn't surprising given some of the state and
Yeah,
national discussion around curriculum. We are meeting, so we talked over the summer, it's a goal of ours to get our curriculum up on our websites, because if anybody ever has questions, we readily provide what we have.
Yeah.
So we want to make it easier and that people don't have to feel like they have to request to see it, it's just there. One of the challenges is that our curriculum from subject to subject looks and format-wise very different, so it's a little cumbersome. It's teacher-friendly, but not necessarily parent-friendly. So we're gonna have an organizational meeting next week. Mr. McKinney is gonna be part of that conversation, but we're looking to build out something on the website. Our initial thought is because we've had more questions, we'd rather just put everything out there, even if it doesn't all look pretty and polished, because I think that there's some feelings that if you don't, you've got something to hide, and so that's a conversation we're gonna be having beginning next week. I'm not sure what the timeline's gonna be for that. It had been a goal of ours to publish and create more parent-friendly guides that really answer what most parents would have for questions around curriculum, more of like a 1 or 2 pagers that this is what 3rd grade looks like. But there's hundreds of pages of you know, curriculum documents that we're juggling as teachers. So we're trying to figure out like how do we do that and sort of provide both levels for people. I think the 1 or 2 pagers sound simple, but given the amount of curriculum revision that's been going on, that's not like right now project, that's like a next year or the year after kind of project. But we definitely feel that it's important and we feel more urgency than we felt even a year ago to just put everything out there even if it doesn't look pretty. So more to come on that. I think it's gonna take a few months to sort of build something like that out. And I know that we've got a lot of perfectionists on our staff, and especially our curriculum specialists, which are phenomenal. I've met Allie and Julia and seen their work. And I think for them, it's hard, the idea of like, we know this isn't looking perfect, but we're just gonna put it out there anyway. But you know, our assessment pacing calendar, I mean, as it is right now, we have parents that come forward and ask, and we scan things and send them to them. Some of the other challenge around that is just copyright. Some things are copywritten and we can't put them on the website. So more to come on that.
And that was part of the spirit, actually, of the idea of the digital PE curriculum. So that the indicator audit that these guys did over the summer, that's a lengthy Google Doc, but we migrated that into the digital PE curriculum. So all those things that were accomplished over the summer through the curriculum development work would be accessible. So it serves 2 purposes. It's shareable in district between the team, but it's also accessible out there for families. So that was part of the spirit of that reason to shift to a digital PE platform. And again, that's like our phase 2. That's like the next step to work on. But it's set up for that in particular need.
Yeah, I think we can more readily provide reading, writing, math, health, SEL, this beginning work of PE, like areas where we've done more recent work, like we are more readily able to share. Social studies to a certain extent, because we've started to do some of that work. Other areas like art, music, I'm not quite sure. Those are areas that, you know, STEAM, like that's something that's still very much to be done.
Thank you.
Yeah.
First I want to say thank you for coming in the summer. Because I'm sure it's not the first thing you wanted to do. Maybe
He
it
was
was.
so
That would be
excited.
amazing, Mr. Corona, but you know, I understand if it wasn't, so thank you for all your hard work in the summer and for keeping Dr. Beard company. I had two questions, one's specific to this and a general question, but is there kind of like a plan, or I know we saw like a little, some decline a little bit because of COVID and, you know, kids not really being able to get out there and kind of, you know, be as active as they were. Is there any plan or is there anything in place? Or are you seeing that changing now that things have opened back up to kind of get kids back to where they need to be?
I think a lot of it with, you know, as you mentioned with COVID, I think a lot of it is just getting kids and even getting some parents, you know, comfortable with like team sports again and being around, you know, a lot of, because sometimes I think parents are a little unsure. Some teams, I think, you know, even some kids are unsure. Like, we could have all 10 of us like right here, and yeah, that's okay. I think so. Just getting them used to that again, and it's, you know, I feel like it's been good in class as well, where, you know, we can, you know, start doing a lot more team things and, you know, teaching a lot more cooperation and teamwork and things like that, and getting them used to it. So I think that's
awesome.
part of it.
Okay, I was just wondering. I know that mile run, at least in my house, was a big deal and very stressful. So I'm wondering if the mile run will go better now. My second question is more generalized. Do we have pacing guides for every, I'm not trying to put you on the spot, but I guess I am, for every subject every year?
For PE?
No, for everything.
Well, defer to Dr. Baird on that question.
So I can't speak to the areas where we haven't really begun doing the audits yet. So like art, music is an area I feel more unclear about. I mean, the other areas, certainly, yeah.
Okay, all right, that's great. I think it'd be wonderful to put what we can out there for parents. I know it'll take time, but I think that's a wonderful thing.
Yeah.
All right, is there any other question? Thank you very much for all your hard work. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks.
Next is public comment. So the Hebron Board of Education values the public comment period as it represents an opportunity for members of the public to express their views to the board on matters within the board's authority. Procedurally, public comments will be limited to 3 minutes per person, and citizens will be asked to identify themselves. All comments must be directed to the board and not to any individual board member or individual member of the administration. The board and the administration will not respond to questions or engage in dialogue during the public comment period. The board and administration will determine when and how to address questions that arise during the public comment period. So if there's any public comments?
No one signed up.
No one signed up? All right. We'll move on. So item number 7, approval of minutes. So I'd first speak to the bottom two. So I will accept the policy meeting of August 4th, 2022, as we didn't have a quorum, so I accept those minutes as presented.
Accepting the minutes.
And there was one outstanding minutes from 2000, right before COVID, or I don't know why they're so long ago, but Shared Service Advisory Group meeting from March 31st, 2021. So we didn't have a quorum, it's just Joe Margaitis and myself, so I will accept those minutes as presented unless Mr. Margaitis has any changes he'd like to see.
Those minutes were left because the Shared Service Advisory Group, I think, would comment on the minutes before they then were approved, and there had never been another meeting, and then you dissolved the committee
Yes.
at your June meeting. So I went back to make sure there weren't any minutes.
Oh, okay.
And there were.
Yes,
So.
so
Wow.
it was ever-changing members and
Good catch.
and the reason we dissolved it, I'm saying this for public since we brought it up again, was because the superintendents in the region meet regularly and discuss ways to share services. The boards were having a difficult time doing that because they'd have to go back to their boards, discuss it, come back. So it really wasn't getting the work done. It's easier sometimes with the superintendents doing that work. In regard to the rest of the minutes, I would just do them all together unless anyone has any changes. So I'd ask for a motion to approve the regular meeting minutes of June 9th, 2022, the special meeting minutes of June 9th, 2022, the special meeting minutes of July 28th, 2022, the special meeting minutes of August 4th, 2022, as presented. All right, I'll make the motion. All right, Heather makes the motion, Alex Crawford seconds. Is there any discussion? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I abstain.
Oh, Joe Marguez is abstaining. All right, motion passes. Thank you. All right, and Dr. Baird, the superintendent's report.
Thank you. All right, I'm going to highlight a few items from my written report. Under district advancement plan, under the first bullet, just note that the updated district advancement plan was sent out to staff at the end of the summer, and the first edition of Bright Futures has gone out, and that included an updated plan for families. Next Bright Futures will go out in a few weeks, and we'll focus on the PE audit and highlight Rachel. The Region 8 superintendents met over the summer, and actually today as well. The Innovation Advisory Council is going to have their first meeting on September 23rd at the Hebron Elementary School Makerspace. And we're really looking for that committee to help serve as a bridge to the more district collaboration between the 4 districts around our mission and vision and measuring that. So I'm excited about that work this year. And I know that we're going to have more discussion around the SRO program later, so I'll save my comments about that until that time. The Resource Management Committee reviewed the budget. I know Ms. O'Leary will go over some of those reports in a little bit. At this time, we feel that we should move forward with the .4 GHS Spanish position. We've had some things work to our favor in the finance area, where we feel more secure about moving forward with that .4 edition. Mrs. Uriano and I did a final interview for the finalist yesterday. We feel really excited about the person we'd like to make an offer to. So there's no need for the board to make a motion. You know, there was consensus before to hold off until we felt a little bit better, but it was in the original budget. Normally I would just have moved forward over the summer. I was just concerned about where our bottom line was looking a couple of months ago. But unless there's any feeling otherwise, we're ready to move forward with offering the .4 with a focus on first and second grade, as we originally planned when we developed the original budget. Okay. Under COVID operations, I don't want to highlight much except to say that, you know, we are seeing some more cases as of late, especially here at Gilead Hills School. So we've had some staffing challenges. I think some of us have been a little disappointed to be kind of feeling like it's deja vu and back at some of those challenges so early in the year. I think we knew it would happen at some point, but we were hoping for maybe a little bit more time before that was rearing its head. Typically those upticks sort of last about a week and things settles back down. So that's my hope, is that early next week we'll be feeling a lot better. We've been in touch with Chatham Health. There's not concerns about an outbreak or anything of that sort. Some of this is staff members who have kids at home that are sick, or and not all of it is COVID related, but you know, there certainly is some. But if Chatham Health was recommending any other actions, we would of course be acting on those recommendations, but they don't have any recommendations at this time. Other items of interest, you have a lot of policies to consider tonight as a first read. I'll save my comments until then, but I'm happy to talk a little bit more about the health insurance consortium bylaws. We had our health insurance meeting today to sort of finalize those, so they are as presented in your packet is as they are now recommended officially by the consortium. The portables have been removed. There's still some work to be done. On my note here, we talked about, I put in a note about we were looking at some potential blacktop space for recess. We've since realized that that's just not, it's cost prohibitive and time prohibitive. We really want the gravel out, and topsoil and grass is a preference than like leaving it for a year and then dealing with it in a year from now. So that should be moving forward soon. It's a good time to be planting seeds soon. Mrs. Uriano is leading the work around the new playscape. At the time that I wrote the report, we said we were sort of like waiting to see a little bit more about the timing for that. It's becoming a little bit more clear that the realistic time frame for that project to move forward is going to be next summer. There's planning and zoning that needs to be considered. We're working closely with the town because they're also doing some playscapes in town. So probably to sort of do that all together. It'll be more cost effective. The town is paying for it, not us, so it's really under their bidding specifications, et cetera. So, but we are moving forward. The personnel report is included. As you know, summer is our peak season, so there's a lot of changes on that report for your perusal. We had our first day of school on August 31st. It was a very smooth beginning of school, save for this, little staffing hiccup here at Gilead in the last week. I would say it's been like the smoothest beginning of a school year that I can remember in a long time. So we've been feeling very good. The Board of Finance continues to discuss the need for you to access the non-lapsing account. We can talk a little bit more about that under Mrs. O'Leary's report, probably makes sense. But they have not officially approved our request yet, either to deposit money or to have access to the account. Their next meeting, I think, is the 29th of this month, so I'm hopeful. We are staying in a budget freeze until that time. It feels prudent to have that access granted before we give free reins to the accounts that have positive balances in it for additional spending. Our enrollment report is included. You'll see that we're right now at 696 compared to 705 last June. We had a large 6th grade class leave, so the fact that we're still so close is really something. I think that we'll be back up over that 705 if trends continue as they have in the past with 3 or 4 more kids a month. It won't take very long to hit that 705 again. The health office team and the admin team completed training on the use of Narcan, and this is now available in our schools. I think it's been delivered.
Very recently.
Yes. And the last thing I have on here is the 23-24 district calendar committee. It's hard to believe that we are already planning for the 23-24 school year, but we have already begun those plans, and that begins with the calendar. So we will have our traditional calendar committee meeting on October 18th at 3:30 via Zoom. Traditionally, there's been 1 or 2 board members who have participated, so I'd love to have a board member participate. We don't want more than 2, because that will now be your quorum at that point, more than 2.
Yes.
So we want to keep it under 2, but we'd like to have some board representation because it will come to you at most likely a November meeting for your approval or adoption. And there are going to be more changes this year because there's changes in the teacher's contract in terms of number of professional days and how parent-teacher conferences are going to be scheduled. So this is a year where there will be some additional changes. I've already created a draft. The admin team has reviewed that. We've tweaked it a little bit, and it's gone out to the other 3 Region 8 districts, because we're all kind of developing it kind of at the same time. We don't have the EastCon calendar yet. We'll likely get that beginning of October. So we should be good to go on the 18th to feel like maybe we can create our final draft that then will come to you. So do we have any volunteers?
I'll volunteer.
All right. So Allie, I will add you to the invite.
Anyone else interested in doing calendar? You can add me.
Okay.
Let's see what I can do. Allie's got it.
And that concludes my report.
Thank you. All right. Ms. O'Leary, the business manager's report.
Okay. So you can see on the first page and a half of my narrative report sort of outlined the very busy workload of our technology and facilities department from this summer. So I'll just highlight a couple of items here. In addition to just the normal turnover of technology, Mr. McKinney was also working on our draft 5-year technology plan. So we've got that in draft, and we've been working on a few revisions with a plan to present to all of you in a couple of months. So we're happy to have that sort of underway, as that's a piece of the larger district improvement plan. So we're happy to move forward there. And then with our facilities department, similarly, like summer workload of just cleaning and waxing floors and moving furniture, and in addition to that, was tasked with some repairs to our ceiling grid at HES, which decided to sort of come undone a little bit a couple weeks before school started, so we had that repaired. Doing some work to help coordinate with the portable removal that Dr. Barrett already spoke to, and working to bring our boiler emergency cutoffs up to code following a visit from the state. So we had a couple of big projects that we were working on, but those are all taken care of this summer. Transportation has been so far so good. So we are at 11 buses this year, which is exactly where we were January to June last year. So we maintained the 11 buses, which a little bit later, you'll see some cost savings, because we did budget for more. The 11 buses is really based on the availability of drivers. So we weren't able to get more drivers. We were maintaining 11, but it is helping us when we're sort of in a tight year fiscally. So anyway, you'll see that in the financial report. And then you have all of your other budget reports included. The student activities account, the activity that you'll see here is mostly some spending from our art accounts. Typically, those accounts, the fundraising happens through an online like Artsonia program, where families can buy their children's art on a t-shirt or a coffee mug or things like that. And we had been able to build up quite a bit of money over the years. Those funds were used traditionally for scholarships for children to attend summer art programs, and because of COVID, a lot of those were shut down. So this summer we partnered with AHM, and they were able to offer a summer art program for some of our students, and we scholarshiped them into that. So that was the big movement in student activities. Our food service department ended the year with a pretty healthy balance. So we met with our food service manager and her team to see, to refresh some of the resources there. So we were able to, purchase some new shelving and sneeze guards and bins and knives and all sorts of stuff. So we helped, they were lacking in some resources for a while, so we were able to do some of that work for them, and they've hit the ground running this year. We have the SMART funding from the state, which is allowing us to continue our free meals program for our families until it runs out. So our projection on when that runs out is about November, December. So we'll just keep a close eye on our reimbursements and send out advance notice to families when that time is approaching. We did send out notice at the beginning of the year, just stating that to families and really asking families to make sure that they send in their free and reduced lunch applications, because when the time comes, we want to make sure that they're ready to be able to continue receiving free meals if they need it.
Can you talk a little bit about the additional food service worker that we posted?
Yes. So we today posted for one additional food service worker that would sort of split their time between the two buildings. We really are, that team is so stretched, especially with the increase in meals that we've seen over the past couple of years. And taking a look at, there's a whole, meals per labor hour calculation tool that I had access to through our food service director with EastCon. And just looking at the numbers, it was very clear that we needed some additional support. We've been trying for a couple of years to hire substitutes and are not able to hire any substitutes. So if one person is out, we're pulling from our custodial team. So just it was very evident that we needed somebody, one, to cover these absences whenever they happen, but even when we don't have an absence, they need the additional support in that cafeteria. So
last year we did attempt to hire like a temporary position, and that we weren't successful when we posted as a temporary. So at this point, we just see that we need this help for the foreseeable future.
Yes. Your preschool report is enclosed. At this time, you know, the finances are looking good there, but we'll keep a close eye on enrollment and the tuition coming in over the course of the year. And if there's any adjustments that we'll need to make, you know, we'll look to make those kind of adjustments in the spring, once we have a really clear idea where we're looking to end the year. As far as grants are concerned, the primary mental health grant was released, and we submitted that last week. It was actually approved since I wrote these notes, so it just says submitted, but it's submitted and approved. But we had already moved forward with our social worker from AHM, so she's here and working, and we'll, you know, begin to do the work of the PMHP program. I put a little summary in here from last year. You can see that we started in January. We were able to serve 9 students in the first cohort and 16 students in the second cohort. And just anecdotally and with results from the DESA, we're able to see some really positive results from the students who participated in the program. So I think everybody's happy to see it move forward again this year.
I'll just add in here, and Dr. Breer, feel free to chime in. You know, there is state grant money that's going to become available for social workers, school psychologists, nurses, et cetera. We really already have a good staffing to student ratio in those areas, and that's because we made strategic investments over time, including with this PHP grant last year to expand the number of days the social worker was working. So I think it is, while this question hasn't been asked, I think it will be asked at some point. I don't think that we will qualify for any of those grants. It would be my guess. But I feel like that we are servicing our needs well with the level of staffing that we have. We also added the additional part-time school psychologist this year, utilizing Title V, correct?
Yep.
So, you know, I think that question will come out whenever the state actually releases those grants. And they also need to be doing surveys about what our staffing levels look like for that area, for those areas. But those surveys haven't been sent out yet either. So I'm not quite sure what the lag is at the state right now for that. But I think that we have already well utilized available state grants to put us in a position where we're in a much better place, especially with school psychologists. When I talk to other superintendents who still have school psychologist positions open for multiple years, and we've added an additional half-time school psychologist, like, we're in a much better spot than we've been in the past, because we've made those investments really for the last 3 years in these areas. But I think we've utilized grants well to also help offset some of the costs.
Heather, can I ask a question?
Yeah.
I'm just curious, so for those grants, they have to, are they, I don't wanna say limited, but they're targeted for students. In other words, they can't be for initiatives that are for like staff wellness or family wellness at large or anything like that. It has to be for the students?
I haven't seen them yet, but I believe so. I think there may be some like more outreach to families as well. I know that we have to have, I forget the exact name of it, but we have to have like a liaison that specifically assists families in accessing resources.
Oh, yes.
Don is that liaison, as he is also the homeless liaison and a bunch of hats that he wears.
The family coordinator, I think
Yes,
it is.
there
Yeah.
you go.
Yep.
Yep.
Okay.
But Don basically, if not named as that person, was already serving that need
Right.
before. So I think that, again, I think we do a pretty good job in this area, and we will of course be like looking at them when they come out, but I'm just not optimistic that we're gonna
Okay.
show the financial need nor the staffing needs that I'm hearing just out there when I'm talking to the superintendents.
So the last part of my report is just about the general fund year-to-date expenditure report, and you can see that our current uncommitted balance is just over $350,000. It's just under 3% of our budget, but just remember that some of these pieces that we can't encumber are things like additional hours for our administrative assistants or paraprofessionals, substitute hours, And then the related FICA costs for those additional hours that are unencumbered throughout the year. We have 20,000, no, I can't remember, tuition reimbursement, 10,000, sorry, $10,000 in our tuition reimbursement line that's not encumbered until we get some paperwork in. There's some unemployment compensation that's there if it's needed. And then, you know, just some other, some other pieces related to settling the UPSU contract. So it may look like quite a bit of money, but that money is like already designated to other purposes. We also have a larger outplacement cost for special education than we had originally budgeted for. So there's about a $200,000 deficit in that line right now. My transfer request does not fill that deficit right now. We are looking to use, as Dr. Baird was mentioning before, we're looking to use part of that $228,000 balance in the non-lapsing account. So we're waiting on that vote from the town to be able to access those funds for that piece of an anticipated deficit in our general fund. But aside from that piece, we're able to, you know, some things come in over, some things come in under than what we just budget for 10 months ago. And your transfer request is about 1.5 pages long right now, which is more than you would normally see at this time of year. But I want to get the money in the right place so that you can really see where the budget is as we move forward and make some decisions. So it's included, and I'm happy to answer any questions you might have about it.
And just to also explain a little bit about like how the non-lapsing account access would work. Once we know we have access to it, we can just be rest assured that we can get money out at the end of the year to balance the books. We won't like draw out $100,000. We'll utilize other accounts, you know, keep on doing transfers, crossing our fingers, hoping that we won't have to access it at all. But then at the end of the year, at some point, we'll get to a point where it's like, we need the money because we got to make payroll or whatever. So, you know, we'll continue to watch it over the year. We won't just cut a check out of it.
All right. So your transfer request, do we want to speak to that, or that's the general gist? I don't know if you want to speak to it.
Happy to speak to it. I know in the past you've shared a bit. I'm
Briefly,
happy to
I
talk
mean, you
to
don't
it
have to
too.
go
Sure.
line by line.
Just 1 minute. Sorry, I can't find it. Okay, I found it. There we go. Okay, I'm ready.
It's hard to miss.
So the first, about a third of the first page is just adjustments to salary lines based on updated contracts or new hires. It does not address any of the any UPSU lines here. It's just other salary items aside from that. One of the pieces here is that we are looking to move funds into a salary line for our occupational therapist. That's currently a contracted position, so that's that $34,000 figure. I'm just like sort of identifying larger figures. There's a $45,000 amount of savings that I think we've found in health insurance, where we can transfer into some of our other lines that are in deficit and still have a healthy balance in health insurance for changes that might happen throughout the year. I mentioned a lot of the facilities things that we needed to address over the summer, and that threw some of our lines into deficit kind of before we even started the school year. So to cover the cost of that ceiling repair, some fire system repair, some additional water testing that we're doing this year at Hebron to sort of get us off of a cycle of copper testing. I'm looking to move some funding into that area so that I don't have to pull from other facilities lines, which I think we'll need access to throughout the year. I mentioned that we had budgeted for more buses than we are able to run this year, so we've got $60,000 in savings in transportation. We have some increased gas and electricity and diesel costs, you know, at this time of year when we were budgeting last year. I don't think a lot of us had a clue what that would look like, so now we're looking to move some funds to, we basically looked at our usage last year and then now multiplied by where the rates are right now, to sort of figure out where we think we'll be in deficit there. And then on the second page, you know, the large item on the second page is the Siemens performance bond. I'd mentioned sort of at the end of the school year last year that this was just an item that had somehow not been billed to us from Siemens for several years. So they've reminded us that this is part of our contract. It was not originally budgeted for, and now we are budgeting for it. So we've opened the purchase order, and we're just looking to move funds there so that we can pay it when the bill comes due in April.
Are they going to be more detailed, like are they going to bill us on a regular basis for this now?
Well, now I
Instead
know
of
that it's
waiting
there.
several years because that.
I'll be reaching out to them.
Yes. You would think that they would
The
want
good
to.
news is we received our, because we have quarterly bills from them too, and I would always get it by way of the town, and we received our first quarterly bill today, and it came directly to me, so that's promising
Oh,
news.
that's good news.
But now that I know that this performance bond is something that we'll need to budget for, we'll be budgeting for it next year, and it's something that's on my radar, so, you know, if we're not receiving it, I'll be proactive in getting it, so we're not gonna be in that position again.
It's like, surprise, here's a bill from 3 years ago.
Yeah.
Part of the reason why there's just so much more this year is that because we're so tight this year, and we're thinking that we will need to access an unlocking account. One of the things I asked Caitlin to do is, can we, where we know we can anticipate that we're going to be over budget, can we just move the money there now so we can have a very clear forecast so that we can be watching the lines very carefully? It's not that we don't watch the lines carefully, but in a year like this, you just have to be even more diligent. So definitely, you know, more than we would traditionally do in September. There just has also been a lot of things that we're moving as in your own home budgets, you know, diesel, you know, get fuel, electricity, natural gas, like these are things that just have moved a lot in the last several months since we think about it, we put together the budget last year in November and December. So it's just,
Yeah.
we might as well move the money there now, and then be happy later if there's some extra in the line if we were too aggressive, but I think it's gonna put us in a better spot.
Thank you. All right, so I will make a motion to approve the line item transfers as presented.
So moved.
All right, Joe. Second?
Second, I'll second.
All right, any discussion? All right, all in favor? Aye. All right, opposed, abstentions. Motion passes unanimously. I saw them all do it as well. Thank you. All right, the chair's report. So I was honored to be able to speak at the convocation on August 30th. It was a really nice event. It was held outside here at GHS, and it was kind of fun because everyone brings their lawn chairs and they're out there. And I don't know, I liked seeing all the new staff we had. So that was really nice. The PTA did a really nice snack item thing. And did they do the sign as well?
Yes.
Yes, and also they had those big signs, you know, in the front. I don't know if everyone's ever seen those. I don't know what they're called, but they're huge. So they had all those big signs out, so I thank them for that as well. So in regard to the school resource officer request that we made in regard to using their ARPA funds to the town and the Board of Selectmen. They did discuss it at 2 of their meetings. At the last meeting, Mr. Tierney, the town manager, presented a proposal, which they considered, which I was appreciative of. And basically the proposal is moving forward with a slight caveat that instead of calling it a school resource officer, they're just calling it a police officer for the time being anyway. I think that was the one change that they made. So what they are able, so their main thing is that they wanted to put the position itself in the next budget. So they said they plan to include and consider our request for a second SRO full-time for the elementary schools as part of the 2023-2024 budget process. So I'm very thankful for that. So right now, they were very collaborative, and which I appreciate. They said they're immediately going to increase patrol hours using some of the ARPA funds. So with the current police officers to provide more daytime coverage at both schools. Obviously, we have one full-time school resource officer that covers our schools now, so this will be an additional officer's time that will go to both schools. They're going to purchase toolkits and training, active shooter training kits for the police vehicles using the ARPA funds. They're also going to offer training to school staff, possibly students, in an age-appropriate way. Obviously, and police officers, so they're going to use some of the ARPA funds for that. And then they're going to, like I said, consider our request for the budget. And they also are going to, with the current ARPA funds, try to purchase an additional police vehicle because they're about $100,000, Mr. Tierney said. So that would be something that they could pre-purchase. So then when we go to do the budget, or they go to add in, hopefully, the second SRO into their budget, it won't be such a large cost. So I was thankful for that collaboration. In regard to our non-lapsing account request, the Board of Finance is going to continue discussing it at their September 29th meeting. They did say that they were going to reach out to the attorney to see what educational costs the non-lapsing account covers. So we're looking forward to hearing more about that as we move forward. Dr. Baird and myself did have a request from Marco Barra, who's one of the police officers in town, and he's in charge of the training for the police officers in town, asked to meet with us. So he came, we met with him. He was, I should have mentioned that when I was doing the SRO, but in regard to training staff, possibly students going forward, but definitely like staff. So we had a discussion with him, but we said the best thing to do going forward would be to go to the safety committee.
Safety and security committee.
So he is going to do that and kind of speak to them there, and then get feedback there and see how we move forward. But we thought that was the best step forward.
We're meeting in about 2 weeks.
Yep, so we'll be there. So that is all I have.
Can I ask a quick question?
Yeah, sure.
Who's on the Safety and Security Committee?
So it's by state statute, there's
From the board?
all for the board.
Yeah,
Allie.
just one? So we have room for another?
Yeah, you could. I think Heather, you also get the invites for that.
I do,
Yeah.
but oftentimes they're during the day, so I'm at work. So I will be honest with you, I can't. Usually Allie is the one that goes.
Okay.
Yeah.
But if you,
I'm interested, but I know we can't have more than a
It's
I
couple.
up
mean,
to
you're
you.
welcome to do it. I can't, I really, usually I get my information from Allie because I can't, like during the day, I'm just not available.
Yeah.
Well, Amanda was on it, wasn't she?
That's kind of what I was asking. I didn't know if
I
maybe
think
one of the
in the
I don't
past-
know
members
if
who was
Amanda was.
resigning.
I know
Oh,
I
okay.
did
2
get-
years ago.
Maybe in the past, okay,
Yeah.
sorry.
So we meet Tuesdays at 1 via Zoom.
Okay.
If you're interested.
I am.
Yeah.
I don't know if it interferes, if we can't have more than 2 members on it, like if that becomes a
I'm fine. I'm not-
issue or whatever.
I don't attend normally, so that's
Okay.
fine. I mean,
All right.
normally it wouldn't matter until, when we get 7, it will matter, but right now,
Right.
if you want to attend with Allie, yeah, that's fine.
Okay,
Alright,
yeah,
so
I'd be interested.
I'll add you to the invite.
Thank you.
And will it be Ally and Nikki both serving as liaisons to that? And we'll update the website to reflect that?
Yeah,
I'm comfortable with that, if that's okay.
Okay.
I don't think I'm on there anyway.
I don't think you are, yeah.
And I will say, I mean, since we're talking about committees for a minute, I am cognizant right now. I know that I am an ex officio to all the committees. Given until we get our 2 positions filled, I'll be very cognizant of joining those. So committee updates. So the policy committee, we have a lot, so we went through a lot. I'll let Dr. Baird speak to the health insurance. A lot of it actually has to do with stuff, that's a bad word to be saying at a board meeting. Items that came down from the state in regard to having electronic meetings. We don't have those currently, but if we ever went back to electronic meetings or wanted to have one here and there, it's just updated language letting that happen going forward. Before there was like an end date on it, and now it's that expiration date has been taken off, and so they've made changes in regard to how that has to happen, so that you'll see like a big portion here of the red line, and that's what that is. We have also a couple policies in here, and these are first read, so I won't go through them piece by piece, because next meeting we will have our second reading discussion, so I'll give you time to go through them. We have a couple of policies that conflict, so I'm trying to align those. So we don't have conflicting bylaws or policies. There is the FMLA policy. I mean, we added there's a light duty piece that we had to add and update the legal references. The hiring of certified staff, we're just saying that the Board of Ed shall be responsible for the appointment of all building principals and district-wide administrator positions. And then some other mandates from the state. And I don't know if we briefly want to talk about I know folks might not have been able to go through all these yet because we have quite a few.
Yeah, and that's the whole purpose of the 2 reads, right? So we
Right,
have them
yeah, so
tonight.
we go
If you have
through it.
questions or concerns, I'd recommend reaching out to Heather or I before the next meeting, so we can try to get anything cleared up, so you can get these all approved next time. The policy on gifted and talented students is a new mandated policy, so that's why there's no red lines, it's brand new, and it's a state required policy. We just have to be careful with these kinds of policies. Our services are definitely above and beyond what's in this policy, but once you put it in a policy, you are bound to it. So we are judicious in terms of what we put in. One of the other things I wanted to highlight, and again, take a closer look at it, but the formulation and adoption and amendment and deletion of policies. So some of you were on the board when you delegated a lot of authority to me over policy updates that are like legal updates, things that are recommended from the attorneys, but we never updated the policy to reflect that I had that authority. So this does that. It's very clear that it's about updating existing policies, not bylaws, so I can't change your bylaws, which is part of why you now have all these bylaws to update around the electronic meeting. And I also cannot I can't put in a new policy. So again, like the gifted and talented, it's pretty pro forma. It's like recommended by the state, written by your attorney, but I wouldn't just put it in because it's new. So that's the update on 9008. So it's something for you to sort of peruse. The last one, the Health Insurance Consortium bylaws. So what's important here is just an update on like how the insurance consortium works. So the insurance consortium is made up of the boards of ed in town and AHM. So there's 9 different groups that are all together collectively purchasing insurance under this consortium. And it's the way that the bylaws work is it's essentially like our policies for how we're going to conduct ourselves as a consortium. And one of the requirements in the bylaws is every 5 years you have to re-adopt the bylaws. So we are at that point in time. The bylaws need to be updated by January 1st. So we are in great position. As I said, the consortium met earlier today. I'm the vice chair on the consortium, and I chaired the bylaw revision committee. And the sort of, what we did is we really cleaned them up. So 5 years ago, the consortium was new. And I think during the first couple of years, things sort of evolved, some of the timelines for things. So these bylaws really reflect how it is currently operating and how it has operated since I've been here for 2.5 years. So we really cleaned them up, and then we added a article, really kind of revised an article on how we set the premium cost share and how we're gonna manage our reserve fund. So you've heard me talk about that before. There's a very healthy reserve that we are trying to strategically spend down, but not spend it down so quickly that all of a sudden we have big premium increases every year. So we're trying to be very smart about it. So we spent about a year talking about the reserve policy, and then decided instead of doing it as a standalone separate policy, it was time to re-up the whole bylaw. So we just incorporated it right within the bylaws. So it's a red line. You can see, the changes in that one as well. When you create your motion next month, I'll give you some recommended language for that, because in a way, it's a little bit different. Like, you're not adopting the bylaws, you're really authorizing me to agree to the bylaws, if you will. And then you'll see the signature page at the end. It's all the different entities are going through this exact same process to reapprove the bylaws. But the item that was under most discussion is actually got a yellow highlight in the red line under the reserve policy. And we decided today to go with it as is, which was definitely my preference, my personal preference. It's conservative, the way that the reserve policy is crafted. But that last provision was really about how to replenish the reserves if we spend them all down. So anyway, happy to take questions. Some of this is a little complicated, and I may not be able to give you an answer right off the top of my head. I might need to go talk to our insurance consultant that works with our group. But I feel really good about the work that we did to update them. It was definitely a lot of work.
All right, so those are all first reads. So as Dr. Ray said, if you have any questions, you can reach out and try to answer them before the board meeting. Also, we'll have discussion next time we vote. Resource Management Committee, the chair, Joe Margaitis.
Yeah, so we met this evening, just prior to this meeting. We've discussed everything here at length already. So as far as the line item reviews, a lot of those are salary-based, energy-based. Nothing else that we can impact that. And we're starting to continue discussions on 22-23 budget going forward. So that's it.
It's budget time. Nikki Matthews, Student Growth and District Advancement Committee.
No, I think do we need to set something up? When do we need to meet?
Typically, we move more in the spring,
Yeah.
when they're sort of updating the plan.
Okay.
So we're good right now.
So no.
Communications Community Engagement Committee, so we have not met. Like I said, next meeting, we'll have to appoint a chair to that committee. Negotiations Committee, as you know, already the teacher's contract, it went to the town. So I
Yeah,
believe.
wait period is
yeah,
done,
the wait
that's
period's
done.
done, so
On our website.
Yeah, so it's wonderful. UPSU, can't speak too much to it, but we're still negotiating. So hopefully I'll have an update soon.
I think it's okay to say that, we have a tentative agreement.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
All right.
and so,
Very careful what I say.
yeah.
Yes, we have it. So I'm looking forward, I'm hoping we can finalize everything and move forward.
We may want to schedule a special meeting before the October meeting, depending on how ratification is going, just so that we can finalize it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because it will be retroactive to July 1. PTA liaison, Amanda's not here, that's another one we'll have to do. And school readiness, I don't know, Dr. Briere.
First meeting is the 27th of this month, so
Okay.
haven't met yet.
Okay, great.
Oh, wellness.
And yep,
Wellness hasn't met yet.
Haven't met.
Yeah.
it's at the top of the next page, wellness committee. So I don't, so we don't have safety on here. Not that we can
Because
talk,
we don't typically,
right, we can't talk about, obviously, about, like, okay. Detailed stuff. All right, old business preschool program, oh, I already spoke to, an additional SRO request, so I spoke to the SRO request. The preschool program, as you know, I forwarded to the board, but they denied, our request to have an additional teacher and staffing in preschool at this time, so, they had mentioned, putting it in the budget, and I'm sure, as we all voted unanimously for it, it's something we can definitely, look to do going forward. New business, is there any new business anyone want?
I have a question.
Yeah.
Or possible, maybe it's new business. So I've actually, just in the last couple of weeks, had a couple of community members ask me about the Public Works proposal and its proximity to Hebron. And I'm not super familiar with it, and I didn't know if it was anything that sort of just was within our purview to just be aware of, to just either talk about or be familiar with. I guess given the location, there was just concern about possible, depending on how, if and how it moves forward, that it could contribute to traffic or flow or just an increased safety concern or what have you. And I don't know our perspective on it, and I don't know a lot about it. But I felt that because they raised it, I wanted to just, bring it up and, see if it was something that we needed to discuss.
I mean, we could put it on there, I personally don't have any information on it, I don't know,
When's there's
we
a
can
public
discuss it
meeting?
in regard to buses, but I don't know if it's really.
But there's a public
purview.
meeting coming up on it, is
On-
it
On Monday.
Monday?
Oh, so it's
Yeah.
close.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I don't know that
At
it
the
would,
library.
this is just my thought out loud, I didn't even think about it, but
Yeah.
we already, given where it is, right, on Old Colchester Road, they still have to drive by Heberdell, so it'd just be a matter of going right or left, right?
I could see though where if they're gonna be coming out of Kinney,
Yeah, because I
I could
guess
see
that's
where
what they're
that could
looking, is
be.
the Kinney Road area. So that proximity to Hebron is a
I could see
different
that would be
ballgame.
a traffic nightmare.
That's the perspective that's being shared with me.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah, so I felt,
Because there's a lot of trucks going in and out at that time. I don't know, I really don't know.
the
This
noise,
is
the
not my
traffic,
purview.
so
Yeah.
noise, traffic, during the school day, things like that, so.
So
I
I
mean,
know,
we could-
I know, do you want me to?
Yeah, please.
So the
Yeah.
town manager reached out to me and said that he had heard that the school has concerns about where the Public Works building is going. I
Oh.
said, oh, well, tell me more about the concerns that we have. 'Cause it's first I've
Wow,
heard.
okay.
We haven't talked about it.
And what he shared with me is that, well, he's not you specifically, but I heard the schools have concerns about where the facility is going. And what I share with Mr. Tierney is like, I don't think I have any kind of information to know if I should have concerns or not. You
Right,
tell
yeah.
me, you know more about this project than I do. And he said the way that the traffic flow is supposed to go is that it should alleviate, and there should be less traffic going by Hebron Elementary School. And I'm not really familiar with where the current DPW building
Yeah,
is,
yeah.
to be frank. So, we don't have concerns right now. So I can't really speak to whether or not we'll have concerns with the new location or not. But nobody, except for that conversation, nobody has talked to me about this at all. So
Yeah.
it's not something that,
Yeah, and this has just been in the last
Yeah.
week or two,
yeah.
so maybe it's because of the upcoming meeting.
It might be.
Yeah.
That might be a good way for them to get answers.
I mean, I have to assume, I talked before about, planning and zoning has to approve not even as big as this room, asphalt over at Hebron now, if we were gonna put it where the portable was. So I've got to imagine that there was a lot of people who are skilled in this area that have already considered this when they were designing this project, that would have a better opinion than I would have about it. So I wouldn't know any more than that.
Okay.
Okay, I mean, I can put it on there, but the vote might have already been done. I'm happy to, maybe.
Well, but if there's like an informational meeting or whatever, maybe one of us or a couple of us can go.
Yeah.
It's gonna be at the
Monday?
library at 7 on Monday.
Is it informational or a vote?
Informational.
Yeah,
Oh.
I think
It's, it's like a public
public hearing.
town hall, so
Yeah.
people
Oh,
can ask
okay.
questions and.
Okay, so it'll be good to know. Sorry, I'm not doing more about it. Any other new business? All right, board member comments?
I have a couple. One thing, and Officer Tom isn't here, but the traffic control with drop-off and pickup has been amazing. I have kids at both schools now, so it was like a huge concern about how the mornings were gonna flow and the afternoons were gonna flow, and he's just done an amazing job, so just wanna throw that out there. My other is kind of about traffic as well, but on the orientation days, it's kind of a nightmare. And one of the teachers actually said something to me, knowing that I'm on the board, because I was joking around with her on it. She's like, maybe somebody could do something about this. So I don't know if in the future we can look at staggering orientation or something to kind of control it, because it was beastly trying to get in here. I think I sat on 85 for about 15 minutes. And then everybody's rushed to get through orientation. So, and then we had to beat feet down to Hebron out. So I don't know how much of a burden it puts on teachers to stagger it further with their time.
So that's something that definitely has been coming up, not necessarily that specifically, but just the idea of the 2 August PD days and how they're structured has come up as we've been working on the calendar. And there is additional hours paraprofessionals need to complete as part of a new state law. And so depending on what we end up doing for those 2 August PD days and like when is all staff here versus only some staff here, it would provide some flexibility that we don't currently have potentially for next year.
Can I ask a question? And what do you mean by orientation? So you don't mean new teacher
You
orientation?
mean like, I'm assuming meet and greet?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Meet and greets.
okay. Sorry. I was thinking, I don't know why.
It is very busy.
I was like, do we have that many new teachers?
It was traffic, just, and also like getting into the field and people figuring out where to park and everything.
Yeah.
It was just kind of chaotic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are
So-
the meet and greets at the same time?
There are different times at the schools,
Oh,
but
okay.
I think some of the challenge we've run into is that if we do it, one grade at one time, first of all, you have to keep both schools separate because you have kids in multiple grades, but also if you're coming to Gilead, if you don't want to type teachers all day, because we want time for training and other things that we're doing too, some of the challenge is like, how do you do it in such a way that if you do it as like, first grade is, kindergarten is at this time and second grade is at this time, we're not sure how much it's gonna alleviate parking, because then people are like waiting for the next, like they got a kindergartner and a second grader, so
Yeah.
they're gonna be here the whole time anyway, so I think that that's been some of the challenge, but, it's something we can look at.
Okay. Any other board member comments?
I do. I have a couple of thank yous, if that's all right.
Yeah, sure.
So, just first and foremost, I think going back to the meet and greet, I know that a ton of work goes into that, and so just thank you so much for doing that. And we had a great experience, and I heard wonderful things from other families too, and I'm sure it's not something that is just planned overnight, and it's awesome. And there is a lot of energy and coming in and out, and just, I felt like it was just super well coordinated, and we just had a great experience, so thank you so much. Thank you also to the Board of Selectmen and our town manager for just, I feel that, being collaborative in terms of supporting our request around expanding the SRO program. I think that our long-term vision is still to have, that second full-time officer. But I appreciate just them being innovative and really trying to look at what we can do now. So it wasn't like an all or nothing request. I just appreciate that collaboration so that we could, have that SRO capacity, those hours at least increased for this year, again, with that long-term vision of, or hopefully short-term vision soon of next year of having that additional full-time SRO. And then the Lions Club, I wanted to say thank you to the Lions Club because they supported grades 2 through 4, I believe, right, to go to the Hebron Fair. And so I was able to go. It was really just so much fun. And, that was one of the things that we missed out of, my family did anyway for second grade. I didn't even know it was a thing. So to be able to go was just really fantastic, and I just want to thank them for their support of that. We saw antique farm equipment. The pig races were hilarious for anybody who has seen those. They made sure all the kids had water and stayed hydrated, and it was so much fun. I know Nikki was able to go too, so it was fun to see each other outside of a meeting, just as moms, but just thank you again to them for doing that for us. It was just really a lot of fun and great for the kids.
And thank you to the bus company for getting.
True,
Because
yes.
that's like, not quite half of Hebron now, but I mean,
Yeah.
there's a lot of kids going on a field trip at the same time.
Is
Yeah.
it before the rest of the fair opens? So
Yes.
we kind of
Yeah.
have, that's.
It was very cool. It was completely empty, right? It was completely empty
Yeah,
and
that's
just
very
quiet
nice.
and, yeah.
Yeah.
I did hear for some kids, like, disappointment over no rides and
I
fried
knew it. I was
dough.
gonna,
But they did give them a ticket. They gave them,
Oh,
just for
that's
the
nice.
record, they gave every single kid got a ticket for a
That's
free
great.
ride for when
Yeah.
they did go to the fair, so.
When I was there later, they said that if anybody missed out, like, you know, just let them know, they'll make sure that they get the ticket.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's very sweet.
Very nice. All right, any other board member comments? Okay. So being none, I will adjourn the meeting.